And welcome back, rugby fans, to Rugby411. As always, I'm your host. My name is Joshua Shibata, and I want to welcome you to the very first Women's Elite Rugby WER Power Rankings for Week 1 of their inaugural 2025 season. Very excited by this. There's only 2 games so far in Week 1, but man, they were some exciting game. I gotta say, it is great to see rugby, professional rugby for women, with such a great start here in the United States. Both games were very well televised. Maybe a couple of technical issues here and there, but there are a lot of great things to comment about the games. Again, if you aren't familiar with it, you can watch all these games for WER live or on demand on the DAZN or the DAZN app. DAZN, absolutely free. It's live or on demand. Doesn't cost a thing. Just sign up. They do have other things. It's a streaming platform for sports, mostly associated with boxing or kickboxing. If you want to watch some of those things, you have to pay. But the rugby, absolutely free. So great for rugby for women in general. And it's not hard. You can set it up on anything. It's very convenient and awesome for women's rugby. Now, if you're new to my channel with the power rankings, first of all, welcome. The preview video did really well. I'm very excited to see so many people excited about this. Some of my fans already, some of my new ones. Very excited to have you guys. Again, the purpose of my channel is to just help promote rugby in the US. Women, men, college, whatever it is, just sevens, 15s, whatever it is, just to get it out in the United States, just to increase the love of rugby, my love for rugby, a lot of rugby fans' love for rugby, and just spread it to the United States and just show how great the game is. And it's great that now women have the opportunity to do it professionally as well. As I mentioned before, the games were really well done. The New York and Boston game, I love the aerial view shots that they had. It's something that Rugby Town for the sevens. If you've never seen Rugby Town sevens, I've covered it on my YouTube channel. But they usually do these great droid aerial shots. Oh, just phenomenal. And I don't know if every game is going to be doing it because I don't recall if the TC, I'm sorry, if the TC Tempest game did the same thing. But regardless, it is definitely a cool thing to add to rugby coverage, and I'm hoping more and more of that will happen. But with that being said, if you're new to my channel with my power rankings, the way that power rankings work, it's not based off of a win or loss records. It's based on what you do on the pitch, who you play against, who you lose, where do you play. There is such a thing as home pitch advantage. Wins away when you're at someone else's home are valued a lot more by me than the wins at home because travel is hard. It's hard to go across the country and beat another team when you're on very little sleep, not sleeping in your own bed. So I factor that in. If a team that's a top ranked team beats a lower ranking team, I don't see that top ranking team moving very much. But if you have a lower ranking team beat a top ranked team, man, that's gonna skyrocket you to the top of the rankings. So that is how my power rankings work. So don't be surprised if you see some teams that are on the top that may not be sitting on top of the leaderboard or the rankings, the conference rankings, but they're going to be sitting here on the power rankings. So with that being said, as I mentioned before, only 2 games. So out of the 6 teams, only 4 teams played. So 2 teams are on bye in week 1, which is an interesting way to start things. But just the way that my power rankings work, if you're on a bye, I don't feel there's any reason to move you up, move you down. You kind of didn't do anything, especially in week 1 if you're on a bye. So it's almost like a de facto 5 and 6. I don't believe in putting them both at 5. So just because the 2 teams involved, one of them are technically your last ever Women's Premier Rugby League champions, the Denver Onyx, or who were the Colorado Grey Wolves in the WPL, I will put them just slightly higher than last season's runner-up, the Bay Breakers, who are technically a combination of 2 California teams. But yeah, so I put them down at the number 6 spot, Denver at the number 5. Again, don't take that as anything. We have plenty of rugby where they're going to be moving up or down anyway. So now let's go into the teams that actually did play. And what I usually do for my rankings, I also kind of go over the games, just put my thoughts into it, give you some highlights if you missed them. Again, if you did miss them, check them out on Dazen. They're on demand, so you can catch them up. There are some really exciting games. So, kicking off at the number 4 spot is the Chicago Tempest, who unfortunately lost in their opener against the TC Gemini, 15-20. Man, this was a very aggressive game, very physical one. In the first 20 minutes, both teams go back and forth with scoring tries. History was made for the Twin City Geminis. The first score by their player is Kaylin Hampton. And then for the Chicago Tempest, the very first try scored in their franchise history was by Kit Busby. Now, later on in the half, Caitlin Hampton pulled off even more WER history by scoring the very first hat trick in WER history, 3 tries in the very first half of the game. Really impressive stuff. Unfortunately, later on in the game, Caitlin Hampton and Kit Busby both had to be helped off of the pitch, both of them suffering some what looked like severe injuries. I tried to check on social media. I don't know what the status of Kit Busby. I'm hoping that she's okay. Caitlin Hampton looked like she was okay because later on, the players that scored the very first tries for their franchises were given medals and trophies to kind of commemorate. And it looked like Caitlin Hampton was able to walk on her own to get that trophy. I don't know if that doesn't mean that she isn't still hurt, but at least it looked like she was okay. I still don't know anything about Kit Busby. I'm hoping again that she's okay because she had to have been taken off of the pitch with assistance. So it's kind of a serious injury. So hopefully she's all right. Now, as mentioned before, Chicago Tempest with those 3 tries by Caitlin Hampton, they're up 15-5 at the half. And the second half, a very defensive game, not much scoring. Then at the then Twin Cities was able to score, taking the lead 20-10. And even though the time went into official time, Kayla Bayless was able to get her second try in the game to give the Tempest at least a losing point, bonus point. If you are not familiar with rugby rules, you can get a bonus point if you score 4 tries. You could also get a losing bonus point, meaning the losing team can only get this point if they lose by within 7 points. So because this score was 20-15, Chicago lost only by 5, they were able to get a losing bonus point. So they didn't walk out empty-handed with the game. Interestingly enough, I mean, it was a very windy game, but no conversions were scored in this game. But what's really interesting, the Chicago field, it is at it is on the Stadium of Northwestern University campus, Martin Field, which, by the way, oh my God, if there is any place I would love to see a rugby game or a college football, anything, is at Martin Stadium, because it is, if you're not familiar with Northwestern University, it is right on the lakeside of in Illinois. I'm sorry, in Chicago, Illinois. And my God, that is so amazing. You're right there watching the lake as you're watching a rugby game. Beautiful. Now, granted, this game it looked very cloudy and chilly, but still, what an amazing view. Now, going back, what's interesting about this stadium is that because it is traditionally a college football stadium, the uprights are actually the uprights of a football stadium. Meaning, if you're not familiar, and I'll kind of draw this out because I do have a little bit of space here. So the way that the pitch, usually in a rugby game, let's say this is the try zone, okay? You're going to go this way to score a try. The uprights are usually on the line or the goal line or the try line right at the front. The football uprights are more here based off of the back line. So they're a little further behind. I checked back when the LA Guiltinis were playing at the Coliseum. Interestingly enough, the LA Coliseum, where the USC Trojans football team plays, they pulled the football uprights off of the field and they put up makeshift rugby pitch uprights. So that's going to be interesting in future games if Chicago Tempest continues to do that, because it's going to throw off some kickers who are used to having the uprights maybe about 3 to 5 meters closer than they are now on this pitch. Now, I mean, granted, there are pitches that have smaller tri-zones, bigger tri-zones. I've been told that Starfire Stadium is technically a little bit narrower of a pitch than normal pitches. So it might just be something that you kind of have to deal with. But it's going to be interesting keeping track of this in the future. Whether or not there's going to be too many conversions made or penalty kicks even made, which may make a big difference. Actually, it will make a big difference in scores whenever you play at Martin Field in Chicago. Despite that, again, beautiful stadium. Would love to catch a game over there for the WER. Also want to mention that both games looked very well attended. Looked like large, loud crowds. So great start for WBDR. So again, unfortunately, with Chicago losing, they are at your number 4 spot. Now, granted, this next team also lost, but man, it was a heartbreaker of a loss, and that is the New York Exiles at your number 3 spot, losing to the Boston Banshees at the very last, literally at the last second, by a score of 29-27, and kind of dashing the home opener for the New York Exiles, who were playing at the stadium at the Memorial Field, which used to be the home to the New York Ironworkers of Major League Rugby. So again, that game, phenomenal game. If you had to only watch one WER game, I would highly recommend the New York and Boston game because it was exciting. To start off, Tess Fury, who is a capped Eagle, phenomenal player. She misses a penalty kick, but unfortunately, on the recovery, Boston knocks it on in the try-zone. So that sets up a 5-meter scrum, which led to the very first try, technically in WER history, because this game was first before the Chicago game, and that goes to Misha Green Yachts of the New York Exile. Not only does she score the very first try in New York Exile history, but also the very first try in WER history. So kudos to Misha Green Yachts, because that's going to go down in the history books. Phenomenal moment for her, phenomenal moment for New York. Moments later, Boston scores their very first try by Lauren Freggie. But then also, too, Boston then gets the very first yellow card in WER history. And of course, after that, New York takes advantage. Tess Fury does a phenomenal bulldozer of a try, knocking down 5 people to score. The New York is up 17-5 at the half. In the second half, Boston gets plagued by more penalties. They get their second yellow card of the game. Despite that, Boston scores with a score by another capped Eagle, Jenny Cronish. And Boston keeps playing pretty rough in this game. Yeja Dunn scores a phenomenal try as well on a turnover to get the score within 3, 20-17. And then moments later, Cheta Emba, who was easily the woman of the match. She is a USA Sevens player, Olympian, played in the Olympics just recently, the one that was in France in 2024. Yep, last year. She got a kick pass try that allowed Boston to take the lead 22-20. 17 unanswered points by Boston in the second half. New York was on the ropes, but literally with about 2 minutes left in the game, New York was able to score with a try by Adriana Castillo to take the lead 27-22. Now, you think that's it. New York was able to pretty much run the clock down, up 27-22. Boston gets one last try. They get a maul. They're rushing towards the try zone. It collapses. The official calls it a penalty try to Boston because New York collapsed them all, which you can't do, and that allowed Boston to win 29-27. Normally on a regular try, it's only 5 points. It would have been a tied score, 27-27. But when you do a penalty try, not only technically do you lose a player because you get a yellow card, but the conversion doesn't have to be taken. It's an automatic 7 points. And man, Boston steals it literally at the last second to win the game. 29-27 ruins the home opener for the New York fans. But man, what a game. That was really something. Very, very cool. And again, shout out to Cheta Emba because she was phenomenal on the pitch. Woman of the match. But kudos to both teams because it was an exciting, exciting game. Great way. And technically it was the very first game in WER history. Great way to kick off the 2025 season. With that being said, Boston barely wins against New York, as phenomenal as it was. I put them at number 2, so that leads obviously number 1. A very impressive showing. TC Gemini are your number 1 ranked team in the very first power rankings in the 2025 season. So congratulations to TC Gemini. Again, lots of things can change because we have Denver and the Bay Breakers entering into the chat room, as the kids like to say, in week 2. They actually play against each other, so I don't know how much they're going to be moving up, but we got a lot of exciting rugby, of course, coming at us, and the WER has not disappointed us at all. And now we're going to do something a little bit different with this video. Normally I would split my preview video of next week's games and my power rankings of the prior week into 2 separate videos, which I do with Major League Rugby. But considering there's only 6 teams in the league, a little bit less time, I'm going to combine the 2. So this will be our preview as well as our power ranking video combined in one. Let me know if you like that. If not, I can always split the videos. It's no big deal. But we'll try something a little bit different with this one. So, with that being said, full weekend of games for the WER. All 6 teams are playing, so we have 3 action-packed games, all of them on Saturday. So, man, if you're a Major League Rugby fan, WER fan, you have literally an entire day of rugby action. It is what every USA Rugby fan dream come true. And again, you can watch all of these games live or on demand on the DAZN app. It is absolutely free. Yeah, and I don't know what exactly the turnaround is for the replays because I watched them a couple of days after they were live. So I'll get back to you on how quickly they come up, but I think they come up almost instantaneously, very similar to ESPN+. If that changes, I'll let you know. But again, you can watch all the games live or on demand on DAZN absolutely free. Now, all the games, as I mentioned before, Saturday, March 29th, we got some pretty interesting ones. First, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we got technically the 2 losing teams of week number 1, the New York Exiles, going over to Martin Stadium on the campus of Northwestern University. Beautiful stadium, as I mentioned before, to take on the Chicago Tempest. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what more to say about this. Exiles looks really, really good. Barely losing to a last-second penalty try to Boston. Chicago looked good too, just unfortunately, kind of a little bit manhandled by Gemini. They are the home team. They had a very supportive fan base in Chicago. But I think New York might be able to walk in and get the win, so I'm going to get the victory for New York. So yeah, if you're not familiar with my previews, I also pick my thoughts of who wins these games. WER doesn't have a Super Brew Pick'em yet, so we don't have a Pick'em league like we do with Major League Rugby, but hey, that can change in Season 2. But I'll still put in my 2 cents of who I feel wins or loses these games. Maybe I'll keep a running track and see how I do. At noon, we then have the 2 winning teams of week 1. The TC Gemini, who's my number 1 ranked team, taking on the number 2 ranked team, Boston Banshees. So, already we have the 1 and 2 teams facing off against each other. Will TC Gemini stay at number 1, or will Boston usurp their position? This is going to be at the Veterans Memorial Stadium in Quincy, Massachusetts. If that sounds familiar, it's also the home to the New England Free Jacks. It will be the Banshees home opener. Boston, of course, stealing a win against the New York Exiles. Again, I mean, this one's going to be a tough one because, granted, Boston stole the win, but they look really good against the New York Exiles. And TC looks really strong, too. I'm going to go with the home pitch advantage here. I'm going to say Boston doesn't want to disappoint their fans. And if their fans are anything like what the New England Free Jack fans are, I feel this will be a packed stadium for the Boston Banshees. If anything, I think it would only make sense to have a lot of New England Free Jack fans coming out to this game because New England's not at home, so might as well enjoy seeing the Boston Banshees play. And maybe throw their support there. So I'm going with Boston on this one. Now, easily the marquee match of the week is going to be at 4 p.m. It is a rematch of last year's Legacy Cup, the very last WPL Women's Premier League Rugby Championship game between the used to be known as the Colorado Grey Wolves and the Berkeley All Blues. Technically, the Berkeley All Blues have been merged with the other California-based team, and they're now the Bay Breakers. But yes, the Colorado Grey Wolves are pretty much now the Denver Onyx. Both of these teams had a bye in week 1. In the championship game, the Colorado Grey Wolves won 31-27. It was a very, very close game. This is going to be at Infinity Park, which is home to the USA Rugby headquarters, was also home to the Glendale Raptors at one point. It is another really beautiful rugby stadium, the very first all-intended rugby pitch built in the United States. Small fact, Houston's Sabercat Stadium is the second rugby-specific pitch built in the United States. This should be an amazing game. And again, I'm just going to go right now with the home pitch team. They won. I mean, you know what? I'm going to change this. The Bay Breakers definitely want to avenge the loss that they had last season. The Colorado Grey Wolves won 2 back-to-back, I believe, championships in the Women's Premier League. But I think the Bay Breakers, they're going to come in with something to prove, and they're going to walk away with a victory. So I'm going with the Bay Breakers with the win here. Could be considered an upset. They're going to take down the Denver Onyx. Either way, it should be an exciting game. So again, all these games you can watch on the Desert Network. I'm excited to cover them. Again, I make it a point. If you've never been to my channel before, I watch every game that I talk about. So I'm going to be watching all 3 of these games on top of the 5 Major League Rugby games, on top of whatever 7 games I'm trying to catch up with. It's a lot of rugby to watch, but it is a fun problem to have. So I'm very excited for it. I'm very excited that you guys are watching this video. Thank you very much for checking out my video. Let me know what you think. Let me know who you think's going to win. Let me know what you think of my power rankings. Do you agree that I put the TC Gemini over the Boston Banshees? They both won week 1, but I felt TC looked a little bit more impressive. But we'll see how that turns out. So anyways, thank you very much for watching my videos and checking this out. And I'll see you on the pitch.